I need to get going with the next step. And also my little tray over there. Because Artapalooza is coming up Wednesday. And actually when I'm doing this video, that means tomorrow. So I gotta get busy. Howdy Howdy, this is Clara Lawrence. All right, I've got these little resin pieces that I've done in a mold, and I'm gonna do a little bit of sanding on them. I've already kind of sanded the edges down because resin will have a tendency, like if you've got a mold, it'll run up the sides and it'll create a real thin little jagged spot where, let's see if I can pull this in kind of close. You can see where it kind of goes up the edge there. So what I've done is I've sanded the sides down a bit. It's not a lot, but it's still kind of concave where it goes in. And what I'm gonna do is scuff up this inside bit a little bit. And what that does is it helps the resin to bond with this guy. So it will really bond with the tray well and won't have many holes or air pockets or something, or even pop off. So I'm just gonna scuff it up a little bit. This is I think 100, it's pretty rough stuff, but it's on the underside, so I'm not too worried about it. And it just allows the resin to go in and bond with it. It's like putting, you know, this to this is real easy to snap, but if you have the resin go into the grooves of the sanding, it creates a really strong bond. Which is why, you know, when you hear of like dovetail joints in woodworking, that's like, you know, a prime joint, because it is very strong because of the little fingers of the dovetail joint. I'm trying to sand and talk at the same time. Apparently it's a challenge. That is pretty good there. I need to get the head a little bit. All right. And then what I'll also do at the last minute is probably dust that off so I don't have a lot of debris on the inside. This, being larger, is going to be a lot easier to get into. So if you've got a painting that you need to do another coat on, you don't have to use 100. You can use 220 or something like that, and just lightly scuff it up, kind of like you see I'm doing, just quickie strokes there, just to add a little bit of tooth to it. And the resin will go in those grooves, and you won't even see it when it's cured up. So trying to use my fingers into the groove there. Get in there a little bit. So, yeah, it's all scratched up. Pretty much ready to go. I'm gonna do a little bit more here on the sides. There we go. All right, let's see, do I have paper? Yeah, I do. I don't normally do this, but I think I'm gonna do it in this case because it's a small piece. I've got some 91% alcohol, and I'm just gonna kind of rub that over, and I'm hoping that it will also grab any loose particles at the same time. Clean that off. Do this little guy. fold this in half, and this side is already kind of dry. I'm just going to wipe it down just a little bit. Now you see that with that little bit of sanding, see all this residue that's down here? That is the reason why we wipe them off. Because those loose little particles will get into your next coat, and they may not stay on the dragon. It may float, you know, say your dragon's hair may float and get into other areas and it'll look like particles or hair deposits or something like that in your board, and we don't want that. All right, I'm gonna get set up for the next step. All right, I'm on for the next step, and that is these little grooves in here. I'm gonna add some acrylic paint to these grooves just to darken them up a bit, because right now they're kind of a mess, and I knew they would be. And the black you're seeing through is just the black resin that was in the mold, and I didn't really paint or put any details in there, so that's why it's all kind of almost kind of rustic looking. So I've got just an acrylic paint I grabbed out of my art supplies and such, and I'm gonna put a little bit into the bowl here, but in the bowl right here I've got some water, because we're gonna get messy with the painting and then clean it up, and the paint will go into the crevices. So that's the general plan. All right, so if you guys don't like your hands getting messy, put some gloves on. Otherwise, I'm not that worried about a little bit of paint getting on my fingers and such. So I just literally just kind of pounce it in to get in the crevices. And it will pretty much paint the inside area. Am I looking for perfection? Not really. I just want it to be darker and a little cleaner in there. And the reason why I'm not too worried about perfection is because I've also got other elements that I really can't predict too much. Like if I'm doing any additional resin layers, I can kind of predict them just because I know the behavior of it. But sometimes resin has a mind of its own. So if you don't want to paint your table, you might want to put something underneath your mold. As I'm realizing it's getting on my table. So acrylic paints clean up with soap and water. So that's why I'm using that. So I'm just gonna paint a part of it, and then just get your basic paper towel, get it wet, and then I'm gonna make a mess and clean off the surface, take it off the surface there. And you do want to make sure this is completely dry before you move on to the next step, if your next step has anything to do with resin, because resin and water really don't get along. It messes up the chemistry of the resin. But since this resin is cured, it's pretty much a moot point right now. All right, I'm gonna get another one just to see if I can clean up the residue more. Now it's not a perfect line. I could, like in here, I'll probably go and touch that up and add a little bit more to it. And then clean up that area again. But this gets me going. Okay, I know this process is a little bit on the boring side, so, or at least to watch. And I want to speed this up because I appreciate it when things like this, you know, where you have a process that's very detail oriented. It's basically repeat the same steps, but all over. So that's why I sped it up.
this is not one of those techniques you need a real fancy brush for. You can even use your fingers if you want to get in there and get messy. So I usually grab a foam brush. I have seen where somebody else has used alcohol to remove a craft paint before. I kind of wanted to try it. I didn't know this piece. I might try it on another piece just out of curiosity. Maybe it'll remove it a little cleaner. But I'm okay with it, you know, some of those little bits going in there. And I could have worked it a little bit harder, but I kind of wanted it a little bit rustic.
So I just want to show you what kind of a difference it is from not having the black in here to having the black in here. It just makes it a little bit cleaner, and I kind of like that with bringing out the details and such. Now, I've done another video that'll come out in a little bit where I have another dragon mold, but it has like moon phases in between, and I didn't want to draw attention to that, so I showed how I messed around with dry painting in there and kind of ignored it. But in here I want to bring out those scale lines quite a bit. And also, this is something I've done a lot, so this is just one of those little tips. If you're going to be painting a lot of a particular color, or even just little bits, I've always gotten in the habit of making sure you put it into something, so that way if you're squirting out of this thing or even dipping your brush into this, you're never contaminating your original source or accidentally spilling it and losing all your paint. So you just apply whatever you need to at the moment and work off of that. You can always add to it as you're going along, so that's not really much of an issue. So that's just something, a little hint there. All right, I'm gonna continue to get this little guy done.
All right, I got all my pieces ready, and this is actually my part of Artapalooza that's going on right now. I got my hubby's phone all set up, and my phone is what you're seeing on the screen if you're watching Artapalooza live. Okay, now to talk about what I'm doing. I've got my two little dragons here, and what I've got here is a silicone mold that, to be honest with you, I'm just using it as a nice little tray, something I can easily clean up, because I'm mixing together a UV resin. So if you have never used a UV resin before, let me tell you this much. It's very different than I'm used to. And I wanted to apply it to part of the scale to give it a little bit of, I guess, a little hint of sun when you move it around, or to give it a little bit of shape to it. So, and also I wanted to do it on the live, which meant I needed to go to the next step after this. And the UV resin allows me to paint it in place in the certain area, and then I hit it with the UV light, and it cures in like just a couple moments. It doesn't take very long at all, like, you know, 3 or 4 minutes, depending on, you know, your resin. And this is a UV resin from Just Resin. So I've used it before, and most UV resins, you need to be careful and make sure you have a very well ventilated area. You've got respiratory masks, you know, go ahead and use those. They are a little bit on the smellier side, and you do need to take some precautions. So I want to throw that out there. But what I have mixed together is a concoction of a couple, excuse me, I'm yawning. Oh my gosh, this is rude. I'm tired, I've had a long day. Okay, so I've got a couple different glitters in there, and one of the glitters is the Stone Coat Diamond Dust. So it's a really, really fine glitter. Another one is a chunky glitter. I'm going to have to put the name down, but it's from, what is it? Just For You, UK or something. Oh, I know I got that wrong. Anyway, and I've got a chameleon in there from Artist Till Death. Her Two-Faced Chameleon is the Red Queen, which I also used in the mold too. So I wanted to tie those two colors together, or not tie the two colors, use it again to help connect it. So I'll definitely write the name of that chunky glitter down in the description. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, so I'm touching up a little part of the scale, like about 1/3 of it, and all on one side. So that way, if it does hit, it hits consistently on that one side. And then I do it around the face, do it on the horns, and I get a little bit of the shape of the head in there too. And I was thinking in my head all throughout the day, it's like, how am I going to apply this? How am I going to apply this? The silicone brush worked perfectly, and I just used the very corner of it, and it made it really, really easy. So if you're doing this and you want to keep on using the UV resin, what I suggest is you put that little tray that you got it mixed up and you want to keep on using that, put it away from you when you're using your UV light, because otherwise you'll end up curing your resin in your tray. So no, I didn't do that, which I'm rather proud of myself. And also, if you don't have a UV light, you can put this out in the sunlight to cure. And I don't know how long it takes on that. You know, it's definitely, you know, a double, triple kind of amount of time, but it is possible. Now, on a cloudy day, I'm not saying how fast it will cure, but it will cure out in the sun as well. So there's some special effects out there that you can play with UV resins that are really, really cool. All right, so I got the big guy pretty much done. We're getting close to being done. And the little guy, I ended up using a lot more of the glitter, and I am completely out of the camera here. Great. Or almost out of the camera. So I made the little one a lot flashier, and it ended up turning out really, okay, a little bit more on the camera. It's hard working with the two phones and knowing where you are and trying to be in screen. So, I'm sorry. But, yeah, this little silicone brush, I'm not saying that, you know, you have to get this particular brand, but it has been turning out to be a really, really handy tool for applying and manipulating resin. Okay. So on to the UV curing for the little guy. And I think I had it in place for about maybe 3 minutes or 4 minutes, and would test it every so often with the edge of something to see if it was getting harder or not. Now that particular part there that you saw, I missed a scale, so I had to touch it up real quick. With the wooden stick, I'm going and I'm touching the size to see if it's gooey or not. And it has gotten to the place where it is done really well. Almost there. Okay. Are we good on this? I'm trying to remember what I did next. Huh. Oh, there it is. Just for you. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now I'm preparing. I have already mixed up. I edited that part of the video out because it was really boring. But I mixed up some of my resin, and I'm doing my normal Stone Coat Art Coat resin. And I'm just putting a nice coat on here. It's not that I'm trying to get a nice flush edge to edge. This is about putting another layer on all that glitter and rough surface that I've got on the tray, and also bonding the two dragons to the tray. I mixed up a little bit of the resin with some more of the chameleon color. Oh, which one is this one? Mistress of Evil, I believe it is. And it's kind of a red-greenish color. So I wanted something a little bit eerie for the background, but yet also kind of cool, almost like spooky-like. I guess that would be considered eerie. And I'm just squishing them down really good just to make good contact with the tray. So that's why you saw me pushing it down, and you'll see me pushing it down a couple times too. I've got a little bit left in the cups, and I'm just kind of guiding, coming down, you know, like from the dragon down, almost like, you know, the little trails that you get like from a plane when it goes through a cloud or something. And I know it's going to pick up some of the texture that's in the background. And as this resin's moving, it's going to not be the smooth, clean lines. And I already knew that, and that's okay. What was really, really cool, and you'll see that in the detail shots at the end of this, that there's some areas where the resin is definitely clear, and you can see all the way to the background, and the background really comes sparkling through real well. Well, you get a little bit of glimmer when I'm showing the, the close-ups on the camera there. So I'm really, really happy with this. And even the chameleon that's in the background really shows up well when you start moving things around. So I will put this sucker away and let it cure up. All right, so hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, but definitely hit the bell to get notified next time I put a video up. But be sure to check out Tish Winter's channel, The Artist Haven, and especially Artapalooza. Come join us sometime. If Tish gets up to 750 subscribers, there might be a little special fun show there. Also, check out my Etsy store. I've got some art pieces up there. So thank you guys. Later.